the microgen test, I think it played a big part in just knowing, I think just knowing that there's bacteria there. I know that sounds silly, but it's almost like relief because you realize there's an answer to why you're not feeling well. Hello, my name is Penny Farrell, and I was asked by Live UTI Free if I would be willing to share my UTI journey with you. And I said I'd be more than happy to. I'm sure anything that I share today will probably sound pretty familiar to most of you if you've suffered with UTIs throughout your life. I guess my journey probably began when I got married. I had UTIs frequently. By that I mean, 3 or 4 times a year. I did become so familiar with the symptoms that I could go to my family doctor, and he would take a culture, and I would have a UTI, but he would put me on antibiotics immediately, and I would get relief within a day or two. So, though they were very aggravating, they were treated pretty easily. So I was happy about that. I had my first daughter 33 years ago, and throughout that pregnancy, I experienced UTIs. And the gynecologist I was going to at the time, I asked her one day, wonder why I get these so frequently, and she said, I really think it's your anatomy and how you're made. And she said, some women aren't built the same way you are, but the way you're built, your urethra and your vagina and your rectum are in pretty close proximity. So it's very easy for them to share bacteria with one another. And she said, so that's probably why you suffer with them like you do, just because of the way that you're made, your anatomy. And at the time I thought, that makes a lot of sense. Over the years, I haven't really thought about it much, but then when I reflect on the times that I'm talking to friends and they'll go, do you have another UTI? And I'm like, I do. And they'll say, you know what? I've never had a UTI. And I'm like, I go, well, I think that's great. That's just great. But I've always thought, wonder why I suffer so often with one, and there's other ladies that have never even experienced one. And again, I think that's great that they don't, but I think that is a good answer. Probably our anatomies are contributing to our weakness to get UTI so frequently. So that makes a lot of sense. But so that's where my UTI journey began, when I got married, really. And until about 20 years ago, it was pretty much the same story. I would get a UTI, I'd get an antibiotic, I'd feel better. But then about 20 years ago, I was feeling like I was getting a UTI. I had found a supplement that I was taking that I thought was helping ward off UTIs, and I took it every day, and I think it did help. But at this time, it wasn't helping, and so I went to my family doctor, and he went ahead and gave me an antibiotic and took a culture. And within a couple of days, I still wasn't feeling quite well, and he got the culture back, and he said, you actually don't have an infection. And I was like, well, I really feel like I do. I wasn't feeling well at all. And he said, well, let's do another culture. And he changed my antibiotics. And so he did another culture, and still it didn't come back with enough bacteria to be called an infection. So he went ahead and changed my antibiotics. He was trying to help so much, and I appreciate that. But after about the 3rd round of antibiotics and nothing really, no improvements and nothing to show culture-wise, he went ahead and sent me to a urologist. And I really didn't feel like they did much more than my family doctor did, besides maybe give me something for pain that he had not been giving me. I struggled with that all summer, a couple of months. And one day I was feeling so bad, I went back to my urologist and said, could you please just take a urine sample and make sure I don't have an infection? And she did, the nurse did, and she came in the room and she said, honey, it's clear. And I just started crying, and I was like, she was going, you're crying because you don't feel good, or are you crying because you don't have an infection? And I said, I'm crying because I know how awful I feel, and I'm not going to know what to do with myself when I get home. I'm in that much pain, and I know that I'm sick, and you're telling me I'm not, and I'm very frustrated, And so sure enough, one of the other urologists came in, and he ended up diagnosing me with interstitial cystitis, which is, when sent me home with information about it, and it's pretty dismal. the medications and the treatments for that at the time didn't sound very successful, so I didn't go that direction. I was able to find a network to get with, and they taught me about diet and different supplements I could take to help with interstitial cystitis. And over a period of a couple of months, I was really feeling a lot better. And I thought, well, that must be it. It's just the diet I was on. I was hurting my bladder with acidic foods and coffee and things like that. And so for the next 20 years, if I felt bad, I just thought it was my IC flaring until about a couple of years ago. And I actually felt like I was getting an infection. So I did go ahead and go to my family doctor, and he took a sample and he came back and said, you actually have an infection. And I was so excited because I thought, all right, we'll be able to treat this with something. I'll feel better. And I was actually having a procedure done the next week, so I had to get on something so I would be infection-free by the next week. So he gave me a pretty strong antibiotic. But after a couple of days on the antibiotic, I felt worse than I ever had. I mean, worse than I'd felt in a very long time. And I ended up reaching out to him, and I said, I will not be able to do this procedure next week if I don't feel better. I feel that bad. So we got off the antibiotic, and he checked my urine. He said, well, it's clear. So I had my procedure done, but within a couple of weeks of the procedure, I was feeling pretty rotten again. And I kept thinking maybe it was some of the new medications I was taking, and it ended up not being that. I had a UTI, as well as a vaginal infection, and that is where really the unending circle has been ever since. I've probably been that first year, a couple of years ago, I was on antibiotic probably every 2 weeks. I was on something different. And thank goodness the Live UTI Free, I was able to find some good information about doing microgen testing. And that has helped immensely. The microgen testing, and my family doctor was more than willing to help me out with that, to read the results. And we did find that there was quite a bit more infection in there than even a normal culture would say. I mean, my cultures were coming back that I had an infection, but the level of infection was really not showing up on a normal culture. So the microgen tests have been a very big deal to me. I also had been advised to be on biofilm disruptors, and I take those every day, and I think those have been a big help. My UTIs have been somewhat less frequent. I still get them. Not that I'm free of that at all, but at least every time I had the microgen test, we see something we can treat. And so hopefully I'm on my way to being healed. I was also given the advice as far as checking vitamin D levels, that I would need to do that because some people that are having the recurrent UTIs have low vitamin D, so your immune systems aren't working quite like you want them to. And so I did ask for a vitamin D blood work to be done, and that's done separately. They don't do that when they do just normal blood work, so you'll have to ask for that separately. I did have low vitamin D, and so I've increased my vitamin D intake. I do the biofilm disruptors. I always have a microgen test available if I start to feel like I'm getting sick. I also was given advice by my doctors about estrogen use, and I was using estrogen at the time vaginally, but I'd been given the advice. It was actually from my son-in-law, who's a nurse practitioner who had gone to a women's conference. He said, really, they say you really need to be using that externally from the urethra down to the vagina. And I can tell you that's had a big impact on how I feel down there. I really feel like that's helped quite a bit. As far as treatments, that's what I'm doing at this time, the microgen test. And I recently did a microgen test, and I had some infection. So I just finished an antibiotic, and I'm feeling a lot better. I think what made a difference in my experience going through the last couple of years, of the people that have worked with me, my family doctor, my son-in-law, my gynecologist, they've all just wanted to help so much. And they've even, done things that I've asked. So you might need to be your own advocate in some of these things. I mean, with a humble spirit, because we're not doctors. They know what they're doing. But I've just been so thankful that they've been willing to help me. And like I said, I feel like I'm seeing good days now. I really feel like I'm having more good days than bad. let me see. I've got these questions here. It asked me if my UTI story is unique, and I really don't think that it is. I think probably a lot of the stuff that I'm telling everyone right now, they've been through the very same thing, and they understand the frustration. No one understands that kind of pain. And I'm really thankful because I feel like God got me through a lot of it. I really feel like that. I would cling to Him when I knew nobody else knew how I was feeling. I always knew He knew. And so talking to God and helping me get through this has been a big thing for me. And again, my healthcare providers, I just can't say enough for them. And some of the people that you've provided on the Live UTI Free website, I love the conversations you have with all the doctors. Have been so helpful and hopeful that there's doctors that are looking into this and they realize that this is real and that women are having pain, even though, back in the day, the cultures weren't showing anything, but there's something there that can be treated. Mental health wise, it can be very hard. I mean, especially when you need to get through the day. I can remember when this first started with me, my kids were still at home and I homeschooled my kids and they needed me. And it was hard. I had to get up every day and keep going. And it's hard to focus sometimes when you're in that kind of pain. But again, I feel like I feel like I'm healing, and the microgen test, I think it played a big part in just knowing. I think just knowing that there's bacteria there. I know that sounds silly, but it's almost like relief because you realize there's an answer to why you're not feeling well. When before you've been told, no, there's no infection there. My words of encouragement is be your health advocate. Again, with a humble spirit. I think doctors would appreciate that because I think they want to help. That's what they want to do. They want to help us get better. Again, there's so many websites out there now. Live UTI Free is very good. The Interstitial Cystitis Network, I've really learned a lot from them, from my IC. Just a lot of support for those of us who are going through a difficult time. And I pray for you and I pray for me that we can all experience better health and good days, and that one day we can all maybe be free of this, but at least be content that we can have good days. And I know that's the point I'm at. I thank God every day for good health. That's one thing He's taught me. Don't take good health for granted because it's a big thing. I hope I said some things that could help you today. I'd be more than happy to help anyone if you wanted to reach out to me. There's maybe some other tips that I didn't give today that I could share, or at least just be encouraging to you. My email would be Mike and Penny, and those are all spelled out in little letters. Mike and Penny at Conway, CONWAY, Corp, CORP.net. And I wish you all a good, healthy, happy day. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bianca from Love. I hope you found this video helpful. There's no single approach that will work for everyone when it comes to health, so I invite you to watch more patient videos here or read more stories over on our website, liveUTIfree.com, and take what resonates with your journey. Remember, it's always best to consult with a clinician before trying something new. If you'd like to share your own story, please get in touch. Our info is in the description. And feel free to reach out with any question about patient stories, finding a clinician, or your own personal experience. Also check out the description below for more helpful resources. If you find these videos valuable and would like to support what we do, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button to stay updated when we post new content. Thanks so much for watching and for being part of this community, and remember, your story matters.